Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing some serious time travel. We are going back roughly 9,000 years to explore one of humanity's very first and, honestly, arguably most successful urban experiments. We're heading over to the plains of central Anatolia in modern-day Turkey to look at a UNESCO World Heritage Site that completely, and I mean completely, upends everything we thought we knew about how early humans transitioned from hunting and gathering to actually living in massive, complex settlements. Picture this. You've got a bustling, thriving city filled with thousands of people living shoulder to shoulder. But here's the catch. There's not a single street, no public squares, not even a traditional front door. This visual paradox is the central mystery of Çatalhöyük. The architecture of this ancient settlement completely rewrites our understanding of early human society and kind of forces us to challenge our basic assumptions about what a city even is.
All right, let's get into it. We're going to cover everything from the city's unique streetless layout and how it was discovered, to what it was like commuting across the rooftops, what the inside of a home felt like, the incredible artifacts they left behind, and finally, their radically equal culture. So first up, the streetless city itself. This is really a tale of two very different mounts. We essentially have two distinct snapshots of history here, located right next to each other. On one side, you have the older East Mound. This is a massive, 21-meter-high Neolithic settlement dating back to 7100 BC, and it was built entirely of mud brick houses, packed so tightly together that they formed this giant, solid honeycomb structure. Just absolutely zero streets. But as time marched on, society shifted. Over in the later Chalcolithic West Mound, from about 6000 BC, we see a massive cultural transition. That honeycomb layout is totally abandoned. Instead, we start seeing the very first emerging alleyways, two-story homes, and these beautiful multicolored geometric ceramics.
Okay, but how do we actually know all of this? Let's look at how archaeologists uncovered these layers of history. It's basically been a giant puzzle that experts have been piecing together for decades, and we can break it down into three major eras. It really kicked off in 1958 when James Millart discovered this site. He led the initial excavations in the 60s and totally shocked the archaeological world by unearthing these grand murals, shrines, and the famous mother goddess figurines. Fast forward to 1993 and Ian Hodder takes over. He shifted the focus entirely. Rather than just hunting for grand artifacts, he used microscopic analysis, botanical studies, and DNA testing to really understand the daily lives, the diets, and the diseases of the everyday people. And most recently, starting in 2020, Ali Umut Turkan has taken the helm. He's expanded the focus over to the West Mount to understand how this great city eventually evolved and changed. Now, let's get to the really fun part. What was the daily commute actually like in a place with no streets? Seriously, how do you navigate a city without roads? Well, imagine you're a resident heading home in the Neolithic East Mound after a long day of farming wheat or herding sheep. First, you would literally just walk across the flat roofs of your neighbors' houses. Those interconnected rooftops essentially served as the city's streets and public plazas. Then you'd find a specific hole in the roof and climb down a wooden ladder into your house. And get this, that roof opening wasn't just your front door, it was also the chimney, meaning your daily commute ended with you descending directly into a smoke-filled room right above your own cooking fire. Wild, right? So, you step off that ladder, and what do you see? Let's take a look inside the home. Standing inside one of these ancient homes was an incredibly intense sensory experience. Once your eyes adjusted to the dim light coming from the roof, you'd be surrounded by bright walls, continuously whitewashed with lime clay. And these walls were basically canvases. They were vividly painted with red, black, and yellow geometric shapes, hunting scenes, leopards, and vultures. You'd also see these raised earthen platforms, known as secular, which were the center of domestic life. That's where you'd sit, work, and sleep. The air would smell heavily of smoke from the hearth right under the entrance. And built directly into the walls were these clay storage bins, holding the family's vital food supply, like wheat, barley, and lentils. But here is the thing that really blows my mind. The most profound aspect of these homes was what was hiding directly beneath the floorboards. In this incredibly intimate intertwining of life and death, the people of Çatalhöyük didn't use separate, far-off cemeteries. No, they buried their loved ones directly under the very secular, the platforms they slept on every single night. The bodies were placed in a curled fetal position, known as hawker, sort of mimicking a child in the womb. And they were often adorned with personal items and painted with red ochre, which was a powerful pigment symbolizing life and blood. And the things they left behind in these homes? Absolutely incredible. Let's look at their artifacts and beliefs.
What we see here is a fascinating blend of brilliant, everyday technological craftsmanship and deep, deep spiritual symbolism, all right inside their living rooms. On one hand, you have marvels of daily use. We're talking flawless volcanic obsidian mirrors, sourced all the way from Cappadocia, smoothed down to a perfect reflective shine. They had beautifully carved bone needles and some of the world's oldest surviving linen textiles. They even used baked clay stamp seals to press patterns into fabrics. But right alongside those everyday tools were objects of intense ritual belief. They literally mounted real bull horns and skulls, coated in clay, directly onto their walls. It was a symbol of power called a bukranion. They sculpted the famous mother goddess, a large clay figure sitting between two leopards, representing nature and fertility. And they crafted these profound two-faced figurines, where one side is a youthful face and the flip side is a bare skeleton. It perfectly captures their deep reverence for the cycle of life and death.
Oh, and we absolutely have to talk about this mural. It's widely considered by experts to be the world's oldest known map, or at least the oldest landscape painting. Found on one of their walls was this stunning depiction of the twin peaks of the nearby Hassan volcano actively erupting. And right below the volcano, a bird's eye view of their very own honeycomb city layout. I mean, the level of self-awareness and geographic record-keeping from 9,000 years ago is just breathtaking.
Which brings us to arguably the most important part of this whole explainer, their egalitarian legacy.
See, for the longest time, anthropologists and historians have just kind of assumed that if you pack thousands of people into a complex urban environment, you are inevitably going to get extreme class divisions, wealth inequality, and a ruling elite. But Çatalhöyük, it totally flips that script. This city was fiercely egalitarian, meaning it was a society entirely lacking in distinct class hierarchies where all people were treated as equals. And the evidence for this is just overwhelmingly cool. First off, in a city of up to 8,000 people, archaeologists have found zero evidence of palaces, no monumental tombs, no centralized administrative buildings. No one was living in a massive mansion while others lived in tiny huts. All the houses were roughly identical in size and layout. Even better, advanced isotope analysis of their bones proves that men and women had the exact same nutritional diet and did similar types of physical labor. There was no distinct military class, no specialized priesthood. Even their religion was decentralized. No massive central temple to speak of. Rituals were just practiced equally in every individual home.
9,000 years ago. Let that sink in. To put that into perspective, humanity made this monumental transition from hunting and gathering to domesticating animals, farming, and building massive urban settlements, all without ever inventing a ruling elite. They built a thriving, highly creative, and long-lasting civilization entirely without kings.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. When we look around at the modern world, it is so easy to assume that extreme inequality, hierarchy, and a strict ruling class are just unavoidable side effects of building a civilization. But are they really? Or is the streetless city of Çatalhöyük whispering to us across 9,000 years of history, proving that a completely different way is actually possible? Thank you so much for exploring this remarkable piece of human history with me today.